Macedonia of northern Greece, Alexander Philip, the conquest of the East. The first inhabitants of this and the entire Greek peninsula were the Pelasgians, the ancestors of Greeks. The name given to the country, which is defined from the Aegean Sea and Thessaly to the north, to the Rhodope and Nestos plain to its mouths to the east and the north, to the valleys of the lower Strymons River and the Axios rivers, towards Dismas up to Illyria, today's Albania and Alps. It is purely Pelasgian and was given to it under Macedons. Macedonus, one of the 50 sons of Lycaon and Pelasgian king of Arcadia, who was the first settler and king of it during 13,500 BC. We're talking about 15,500 years ago. For example, shortly before the event during the reign of our forefather, Savior Noah, Deucalion, of the Great Flood. Makednos means long, and it's of the same root as Makedna, Macedonia, purely Pelasgian is a word. Throughout prehistoric times and up to ancient times, Macedonia has a geographically concept, had a different area both towards Dismas, Illyria, and towards north, Paeonia. Only under Philip II, following his successful campaigns, the borders of Macedonia were extended to the whole of Illyria and Paeonia, while towards the north it also included the area of northern Greece, Halkidiki Peninsula. Alexander Philip and other versions says Alexander the Great, of course, Philip's son, was undeniably the greatest morph of the ancient world. His military and political action influenced the social course of mankind during the so-called Hellenistic times. Both his time and modern historical research have been very concerned about his personality. And his era, we know Aristotle was his teacher since he was very young. And all of his little pals from, nursery school, he grew up with them and they became his generals. One of them being Ptolemy, who inherited the area of Egypt. Now, his era wrapped his birth with the veil of legend and his divine origin, while modern historiography devotes tens of thousands of pages to the investigation of his historical presence, sometimes overestimating his value as a leader and sometimes criticizing his personal contribution to the spread of Hellenistic civilization throughout Asia. And the writer says, I simply consider Alexander a thorough and skillful executor of his work, the work of his father Philip II. Let's remember that the Archangel Gabriel in the book of Daniel prophesied concerning the life and conquest of Alexander the Great. Now today, the latest research, following the studies and intellectual works of a number of important Greek historians, as well as some well-known Western historians, is equipped with all the criteria to fully appreciate the historical action of Alexander the Great, the insurmountable role in the spread of Hellenistic civilization in the Mediterranean, the Near and Middle East, and the Indies. He even went to China, Taklamakan Desert, as we know. The historians who fall into the phenomenon, the miracle of the amazing political and military action of Alexander the Great, are not entitled to silence the fact that the personality of this Macedonian soldier is born of the social and economic conditions of an era which has a brilliant beginning in the reign of his father Philip II. The fact that during the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great lived around 330 BC, the Macedonians took active action in the interior of Greece and is not a random fact. They united all of Greece. The ancient democracy had long ago played its historical role and the historical coast as a social economic structure, and had now entered the stage of decline, in particular the economic fragmentation which had followed after the separation and loosening of the bonds of the colonies with the Attic city had regulated the regime of the ancient republic to a completely secondary status, already exhausted by the local wars between Athens and Sparta and the allies. The Macedonians, a people who had not been strained by civil strife, maintaining their vigor and vitality, having completed their Greek presence in the rich northern Greek lands, begin to acquire considerable power. The unity of the economy of the area they occupy helps in their rapid development and the acquisition of supremacy over the rest of Greece, which is economically fragmented, to such a point that in the middle of the 4th century BC, that the Macedonians' threat against the Astes and the democratic regime is now clearly defined. The state expansion and economic development of Macedonia under the regime of military centralization is followed by the rapid strengthening of the military apparatus. Under the pressure of needs, new weapons are established, such as the long shield, the long spear, the Macedonian Saritsa spear, while the military units are surrounded by heavy siege machines and means of transport. The change in armament was accompanied by the new strategy, which was a true revolution in the science of war. Since the time of Epaminondas, the ancient strategy had not undergone significant changes, and only the Macedonians dared to change it radically. And in the strategic genius of Alexander the Great, the tactics of the Macedonian flag are spoken. This, like a solid and unbreakable wall, marched against the center of the enemy and broke the cohesion, while the cavalry occupied the edges of the enemy's formation by flanking attacks, causing panic and helping the Macedonian infantry to achieve as deep a breach as possible in the enemy's line, the lining up. This strategy of Alexander was applied in all the battles in Asia and brought as a result his amazing victories. Alexander's campaign after the subjugation of Greece, the Battle of Chaeronea in August 338, under the Macedonian scepter, was a vital necessity for the Macedonians. After all, this was also the purpose of his father Philip, as he attended the council organized under him in Corinth, where all the Greek cities sent embassies, except for the Spartans, to campaign against Persia in order to take revenge on the Greeks who were once under the Persian rules. The cumulative expansion of the Macedonians and their dominance in the Greek lands could not be maintained without simultaneous dominance over the sea routes to the Black Pontus in Asia, the Black Sea, since most of the productive lands were located to the east. In this way, at the same time as the submission of Greece, as we said, he united Greece, the campaign against the great Persian Empire is also decided, which, despite its obvious fatigue, after the Persians nevertheless maintained its strong position and forces. Thus, the genius of Alexander the Great was provided with the auspicious historical moment for its complete catalysis and subjugation, at the same time as the spread of Hellenistic civilization from the edges of the eastern basis of the Mediterranean to the banks of the Indus and of the Ganges. Alexander's state disintegrated after his death. After it fell into the hands of his successors and descendants, it was a natural consequence for a vast region whose image it presented in terms of political and economic unity was unstable. But what remains, and is beyond any doubt, is that Greek culture and the Greek language penetrated deeper into the East than Greek political and economic influence, and all that has been achieved is the hastening of the end of the vast, theocratic, slave-holding Persian Empire. He, of course, as we know, did away with the Persian Empire. And as it was prophesied by the archangel Gabriel to the prophet Daniel, he said, "Blessed be the nation singular, that does away with the Persians." Okay? Now this is by Steriu Vasilia, Betty Humanist, a religionologist candidate for Master Archaeology, Fesse University, Switzerland, is the author and researcher of this. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.